per usual, we are here in the weekend. It's not a Sunday, it's a Saturday. Probably got some stuff going on tomorrow. But, crappy weather equals time to sit down and talk about comics. And for I haven't made videos or done live shows in the last couple of months and stuff like that, I found this bit of a stack of stuff laying around here. Dollar boxes, some ollies, pickups, and things. So there's enough here just to kind of keep things interesting, no biggie and stuff. But the biggest thing that kind of gets me is a lot of this stuff is really drying up around here. I kind of feel like these ollie hauls. If you follow the video over the last year and some people out there, making videos that are on there for a while, Ollie's bought a huge of trades and stuff, like $3 million worth or something. Hey, what's up, Scott? From DC Comics last year, and then Marvel. They were getting some stuff from Marvel. Hey, what's going on? Everybody's popping in here, man. Wow, that was quick. A minute in, and all kinds of people. Brian Space Babies out there. What's up, guys? So, anyway, so it's almost like there for a while. I kind of started noticing over the years that like flea markets and yard sales around here and things like that are kind of drying up. And I'm not saying that that's a permanent thing, but over the last 2 3 years, I've really seen some things happen to where the quality of the books, are keys and stuff, and find out. Troopers out there, what's up? What's up? We'll just let everybody get in here, and I'll start talking about some books and stuff. Anyway, so I'm kind of grabbing the stuff when I can because it's cheap, and I'm finding some really good stuff in the dollar boxes when I see them, which kind of surprises me. And the reason I think they're there is because of I think there's not as many people hitting as many places trying to find this stuff. So I've kind of looked up, but I feel like the time is now to really grab this stuff while it's out there, and while there's, it almost feels like there's a big purge going on. People kind of wanting to get rid of some of this stuff and everything. Still a lot of smaller cons coming up over the summer and stuff. What's up? I've got chili cooking in the crock pot. Awesome. That is odd. Jared Osborne is cooking some chili. I guess he's not bike riding today, or he's already gotten out of the way. But yeah, I have breakfast being cooked to downstairs and stuff. So that's kind of a treat and stuff. That's awesome. All right. So like I said, this mix. Some of the Ollie stuff I picked up that I've wanted to check out. 5.99. I kind of find it interesting. Oh no, is it mirrored? But anyway, I kind of find it interesting that it's going to be mirrored. Dang on, man. Yeah, everybody's going to pop over there. Well, I'll fix this later, guys. So this is going to be mirrored. I might do a regular video showing some of this stuff. But some of the stuff I found is like this Thanos Infinity Revelation, where I'm not really into like the mainstream books too much and things like that. But apparently Jim Starlin for years has still been carrying on the legacy of the Thanos story, if you will. I already got my bike ride in at 9 a.m. It was above freezing. I was so happy. Nice, nice. I'm gonna start jogging here probably tomorrow morning. But anyway, but apparently Jim Starlin over the last couple years has been doing little mini series, hardback one shots and things like that, continuing this plotless the story of Thanos and stuff. So I finally picked one up. Hey, yeah, Eric Bean, what's up, buddy? Yeah, yeah. Come back to check out the show later, man. I know I can tell you're working, but I wanted to check it out because it's like old school. It feels like old school Jim Starlin on Thanos and stuff. So it was kind of cool to pick this up. It was a satisfying read. He really went out there with the sci-fi elements, playing around with storytelling. The guy still he still has it. He's still an innovative storyteller. You've got to really kind of pay attention to what he's doing in the panels with the characters' costumes and stuff. So that's kind of cool to get. Now, one of the things that I got that I was on board with, and I'm still sort of on board with it, even though they've gotten way behind, was the DC Rebirth. There's the hardback of it, which was fantastic. I got in there, but DC Rebirth is where we got our big. Hey, morning, guys. Was where we got our big apology from Cruder quoting. Morning, buddy. Is where we got our big apology from DC for what the new 52 was, and we're supposed to start getting the characters back that we love and get our action into things that what made us love comics are supposed to be back. So they came out with a one shot to kind of kick this off, and then this is the hardback. Ivan Rice got in here. Of course, we had the big return of Wally West and Barry Allen reuniting, remembering him. We started getting the idea that the Justice Society was coming back. Um, And the thing that goes back and forth that I wasn't really too upset with, because like I said, the bloom is all in the rose, but we were starting to get a hint that the DC characters were going to meet some Watchmen characters. Kevin Kelly, what's up, buddy? Good to see you out there, right? So I was able to get this really super cheap, like at Ollie's and stuff. And what's really cool is this book and the next two that I want to show you. There was a little bit of a the weird world isn't here, but anyway, there was a little accident at one of these Ollie's. Ollie's is they're to me they're selling tons of these books when they come in. They go pretty quick. These stores are selling, but this one in Bristol, I walked in and the place was packed, and I turned around and they've taken all their books, these hardback books, softback books, and these packages of comics that are like I think there's like 5 or 10 or something in a little package and stuff, and they've stuck them on one table with wheels on it, and they're stacked up high, and they have little boxes that some of them are in. And I went there and I picked out 3 books. Found one of the books for my buddies called Weird World, and then all of a sudden, I was in an avalanche, honestly, full of books. They were on my chest where they kind of leaned over, and then there's a bunch of them that fell in my legs, and I was seriously was up to about an inch, half an inch past my knee in books. And I stood there, and 2, 3 other people shopping came over and helped me before the actual people at Ollie's came and helped me. So I just grabbed the books that were in my I had in my hand and had set to the side on some other shelves and stuff. That's all I got. I got out of there. I was like, live by the sword, die by the sword. I was going to drown in comics. I was like, this is it. This is how it ends. Right. Now, something that I always pick up the individual issues of this miniseries. This miniseries came out while I was doing basic training, I think. Yeah. And so I turned around and saw the hardback of this for an excellent price. And I've already gotten rid of the price tag and stuff like that. But if there is one book that I think that I really enjoyed, right underneath Watchmen and stuff that I can read and reread, it's this story here, GSA: The Golden Age, which is by James Robinson, the guy who ended up going on and doing Starman in the '90s and a few other things, and Airboy, and I messed up Airboy miniseries he did a couple years back and stuff, right? But this collects the 4 issue prestige format, and I stuck one of them over there. I think that's how hoarders sometimes die. A pile of their stuff falls on them. Yeah, it was a matter of time. It was a matter of time. I thought it was over. But anyway, I was really happy to get this because I'll buy multiple copies of the Golden Age miniseries. The little storyline that he had going on with the Manhunter in that just blew me away. I loved it. That's exactly how I would love to see a series of the Manhunter from that. And even though this is supposedly not in continuity, he put a lot of this stuff where it felt like it was in continuity into his Starman run. So I'm a huge GSA fan. I'm a huge fan of those stories told during World War II. I'm a huge fan of The Invaders by Roy Thomas, Frank Robbins, and everybody from Marvel in the '70s and stuff like that. I love that stuff. But this is where it was more of a contemporary tale where the '40s had he gets into there's drug use in here, there's occult stuff in here, there's a divorce in here, relationships feel more real, and of course but this story takes place after World War II, so if you were really into the All Star Squadron, you kind of see what happened to him. Speaking of Rebirth, did you read the button? Yeah, I've enjoyed it. That's the whole thing. I'm not saying it's DC's best stuff. I'm not saying this is going to be classic material, but a lot of what they've done, Jeff Johns really feels it's a lot of the stuff Jeff Johns was right and really felt like he was passionate about. So there was like an energy in it that I was reading that was pretty cool. This, of course, there's things that I kind of shake my head at, things like that. But sometimes you got to just kind of let go, at least for me, and stop being so critical and stuff. There's always an edge about using those Watchmen, right? I mean, even though I know it's coming and things like that. I've already been through it before. Watchmen kind of broke me. You know what I mean? I ended up enjoying a couple of those series and kind of letting go. And you just got to let go of that Watchmen being sacred feel that the miniseries is there. You can just pretend nothing else has happened to it. But I've really enjoyed it. I kind of think they've dropped the ball with Doomsday Clock, considering they've had a two, or they at the time they had a 2 year lead up to it, and what that series has been going on for a year and a half now. We've only got like the ninth issue just came out this last week. everything's supposed to line up with with the DC universe is supposed to line up with Doomsday Clock. Did you know Tarantula was a supporting character in Chuck Dixon something? That'll come back up. I've already messed with this last week, and the comments do not come up when I want them to come up. So I'll answer that in a minute. Now, something I wanted to read, and it really blows my mind that this was over 20 years ago in the 90s, right? I've been picking, I mean, it just blows my mind because I remember this kind of coming out and hearing about it, but it was a prestige format, and I was just kind of skeptical. But it was kind of cool to get this. But, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, Superman for All Seasons. I've read first, this was a four-issue prestige format series. There's four of them, and I think there's some backup stuff in here that they pulled from other places, like Superman, Batman. Tarantula is a supporting character in Chet Lewing's Night series. That's cool. I did not know that. I'll definitely check that out. The Tarantula from All Star Squadron. Nice. But getting back there and trying not to sound all schizophrenic here and stuff like that. But the Jeff Loeb Tim Sale team is really cool. It's really cool. And Tim Sale's got ties to Tim Robbins with some Legends of the Batman story. I watched Tim Sale kind of rise. I watched Tim Sale go through his Frank Miller like era and stuff. Hey, Ponadius, what's cool? And Kevin Kelly, I just picked up Superman for All Seasons. Yeah, it's a cool story. I mean, so far, but the whole thing about Jeff Loeb and Tim Sales, they had the Batman Halloween stories, and the oh my God, watch me go here with like one of the great Batman stories of all time. Oh, are you kidding me? This is almost Halloween. The Batman story where it took place over a year. I've heard nothing but good things about Superman for All Seasons, and I've always meant to read it but never have. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm glad I waited and got it like for sale, But oh my God, Dark Victory, The Long Halloween. Yeah, Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb did some great Batman stuff, right? Tim Sale did this really cool little arc on Legends of the Dark Knight with James Robinson, which was really cool. I mean, it just Tim Sale started popping up, and of course, the guy became a superstar when the TV show Heroes came out. But he was doing stuff with Jeff Loeb, like I think he did Challengers of the Unknown to him, going all the way back to the early '90s, if not the dawn of the '90s. And these guys kind of sort of stuck together. They went to Marvel, of course, and did the Daredevil miniseries, the Peter Parker blue, Daredevil yellow, the Hulk gray, things like that. They always had like, I always kind of liked how they had a tone with it. So they're like one stuff what I've read, really character driven stuff. Jeff Loeb really kind of, probably when he was reading these comics when he was a kid, that's what it felt like. Now, something that I've always wanted to get into, I've always liked this character, but it really amazed me. I still think Tim Sale's Death Blow for Image, oh, you like it, Death Blow from Image in the mid 90s. Oh, yeah, yeah. I picked up some of that, just kind of checking it out. It kind of cracked me up. And the Death Blow, this I don't know. I don't remember enough to comment on it. It just kind of cracked me up then when I saw Jim Lee jump on there and Frank Miller impersonation with his art. Couldn't tell if Jim Lee was just having fun with it. You know what I mean? And then when they started having Batman Deathblow crossovers, I was just sort of like, what's going on? You know, definitely need to check that out. But I know there was Team Nine by Chuck Dixon that had ties to Deathblow that I wanted to check out. Um, anyway, but a character that I and it really surprised me how I don't have a lot of his stuff and it's sporadic has been Deathlock. And like I said, I apologize for this being mirrored. I'll fix this situation next time I have a live stream. Was Deathlock the Demolisher here, right? Doug Munch, I think, was big time on this, but this has Astonishing Tales 25 through 28. Tim Sale could work on Supreme. That's interesting. After seeing his Superman stuff, I get where you're coming from. Yeah. Astonishing Tales 25, 28, 30 to 36, Marvel Spotlight 33, Marvel Team Up 46, Marvel 2 and 1 27 and 54, Captain America 286 and 288 through 288. And that's what I mean. It seems like the Deathlock stuff is real sporadic. Yes, he had a couple miniseries with Dennis Cohen coming on there. I can't quite remember if that was an ongoing series. I'm sure he's had one at least in the 90s. But this came out in the 70s, started out in the 70s, and it really was foreshadowing. The original Starting Tales Deathlock is a classic, and that's what I was getting ready to say. I finally got to go back and read those, complete. They're in here. Um, so this is the Deathlock tales from the early 70s up until about 83, I think, with the Captain America stuff. And it's really good stuff, but it doesn't surprise me I didn't get to read it because it's scattered all over the place. And like I said, I've got different stuff for this. Okay. So this was really cool, but it says complete collection. Well, I think it's part one of two. It would have been nice. But yeah, this stuff is classic. It's really foreshadowing the '80s, I think, in a way. We have a super soldier of the future who is a cyborg, and he has a computer that he talks to. Computer. Great stuff. The letter, even a hand letter to computer font in Deathlock. Yeah, yeah. See, that's what I mean. Jared Osborne is like all over this, knowing the little trivia and facts. Deathlock fans are pretty hardcore. They love the character and stuff. I think that I've ran over the years. That's why he stayed in the back of my mind and things. People always kind of bring him up, or I'll remember. I mean, I loved when he met Captain America. They do another crossover. Deathlock should meet Commandy. Matthew Rasco. Wow. Interesting. That's definitely something to think about. I want to sit here and be like, yeah, but that actually would be cool. I think that would work. Two different versions of a great disaster. But anyways, post-apocalyptic and just all kinds of great stuff. It's more, I mean, it's really like cyberpunk before it had a name. I guess you've made me go to Ollie's. Hey, welcome back. Thanks. People are popping in there. I'll read those comments as they pop up. I messed with people popping in now. I messed with the screen last week and it won't pop up if I don't let it pop up. I do have access to a computer, so I may be going to laptop. But anyway, I've gone on about this. Hey, welcome back, Parker Rizzo. Yeah, my journey of 30 long boxes is down to 9. Good for you, man. And somebody said Deathlock and OMAC. You know what? We're just going to do a live stream where I pull out all the post-apocalyptic books. That's all there is to it. It's time. Okay. So moving on. So they had a comic book convention out in Salem, Roanoke, Virginia. I don't know, maybe a month ago. And I've got some stuff I picked up mixed up in here. Um, yeah, Cruder Quotient said Deathlock and OMAC would be a better match. Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's because OMAC so much ass and Deathlock he could keep up with Deathlock. But it would be cool to have see how Commandy reacts to all this stuff, right? But so there was a Salem. I'm like I said, I'm probably going to end up doing a whole other video on this stuff. Deathlock in the regular Marvel universe never worked for me. Yeah, Jared, that's one of the reasons why some of the stuff I have is so sporadic. Yeah, on that. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, so I went out there and I met Ron Mars. Now, my thing about it is that I really one of the things that I had to get a break from, you know, online with the hobby here, is how a lot of people act on Twitter and stuff. Like I was already following some of these creators on Twitter because they were actually pushing their books, or they might ask me questions about comics and stuff like that. It was never really I was never a big Twitter user, and then all of a sudden it's just sort of like starting with Dan Slott, and from my perception and going from there, more and more creators just got really nasty on there, and it really kind of tainted separating the art from the artist and stuff, right? But I went ahead and I met Ron Mars at the convention. He was there, and we ended up having this fantastic talk about Garcia Lopez, and who's because we broke the ice because I have this book here from the Amalgam Comics back in the '90s, the Marvel DC crossover of Doctor Strange Fate that Garcia Lopez did, and I loved it because this is probably the closest I was going to see Garcia Lopez touching some Marvel characters, which is cool. I watched a panel that Garcia Lopez was on a couple years ago at Heroes Con. Ours signed this, and we had this great talk about Garcia Lopez, where it was just two comic book fans talking about Garcia Lopez. Ron Mars was fantastic to talk to, right up. So I went over there and was totally prepared for to just be like, okay, yeah, I wasn't surprised. It turned out being really well. And I'm finding this thing when I meet these comic book creators. I really dig it when I find out they are still fans of the comics and we can talk and we have common ground. I remember a couple years ago. Oh man, going so blank. I get my coffee in me, but met one guy and we ended up talking about Al Williamson. It's the dude that did all the Marvel Zombie covers. I cannot believe I've loved that guy since I was like about 5 or 6, and he was doing Mudwog and heavy metal. I feel the same way about the OMAC, but I like the art by Keith Giffen. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, got you. Okay. So one of the cool things I picked up, so I remember this when I was a kid, and I actually think this was like in a library or something. Let's see what year this was. 82. So I was like about 9. But this is a story by Marv Wolfman, illustrated by Ross Andrew, Rich Buckler, Bob Smith, Bob LaRose, right? But this is a storybook, a little hardback storybook. It came out in '82. Pseudonym. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, Arthur Pseudonym. Appreciate it. I just need a little kick sometimes, right? So I turned around here and it used to have a cassette player, a cassette in it that read the story with you, kind of like an upgrade from the books on record back in the day, the storybooks, the records. I got a bunch of those here too. So I grabbed this for real cheap, figuring I can get on eBay and find the cassette. But I found on YouTube somebody had uploaded the cassette, and they've also got the storybook going with it and stuff, right? But I just love when you can find Ross Andrew work in from these guys that nobody else has really seen. Rick Buckler, Ross Andrew. It's a lot for the art and stuff, and it's just fun for kids and stuff, right? So I grabbed that for nothing, and now I have some Ross Andrew and Rick Buckler that you just don't really see. A lot of people collected, those books on tape because Neil Adams did some stories for him, books on record in the '70s and stuff. His studio worked on them. That was really cool to find. I don't know if you guys still are into Alan Moore or not out there. He supposedly has officially retired with this last League of Extraordinary Gentlemen story with Pat Mills. They're both supposed to be retiring. That miniseries is their swan song. I pre-ordered it, and I'm hoping to get most of it in with my next Gmart order. But I found some copies of Providence. Was a 12-issue miniseries through Avatar Comics that one of my buddies turned me on to. I mean, usually I have some Avatar stuff that Alan Moore worked on but didn't directly write, and he wrote this. And this is a really interesting story that I really don't think a review would do justice, but it ties into H.P. Lovecraft becoming a phenomenon. This is the kind of book where you read, and it takes place, I think, in the 20s, and it's about, oh man, it's got so many social issues and stuff in it, but it's told in a storytelling way that's just fantastic. But Providence is pretty much about black magic, H.P. Lovecraft, the story of the reporter who is tracking down these people to get a story who may or may not be in the occult, and he doesn't even realize what he's in the middle of. And it's just, you read the whole thing, and it just has this atmosphere, and you absorb the story more than reading it. It's just really cool. You see bits and pieces of little demons here and there. Is this really happening to them and stuff like that? And then the ending of it is just fantastic. It just kind of answers the question of how can a guy like H.P. Lovecraft, who were telling these stories, how can his stories become so big into the real world that we talk about them today? And it ties into a few things. Alan Moore wrote a very cool under the radar story with Providence, which I highly recommend. I don't have a lot to say about that here. One of the books I picked up that I want to check out, I love, talking about Arthur Pseudonym a minute ago, I love Sam Keith art, of course. I like the Max. I'm always picking up image copies of the Max, just here and there, trying to get all of them and stuff. But we had the Batman, meets the Max, which kind of surprised me. Roy Thomas gave me counsel on the history of his Conan run at my local Terrificon. The conversation ended up being both gushing about Golden Age heroes and stuff. Yeah, I've had back in the early 2000s. I met Roy Thomas a couple times at Heroes Con, and I actually have a Conan movie signed by him, Conan the Destroyer. I took my DVD one year and had him sign it, and he told me some stories behind it. Yeah, Roy Thomas, and Barry Windsor Smith, John Buscema years cannot be touched when it comes to Conan. But I picked up an issue of this just to check it out. I might back up and get this. This is around the time where it seems like Batman's getting handed out again. We got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meet Batman on their third miniseries. Batman kind of with the Max. Batman. I mean, when you step back and really look at it, sometimes some of these things where they're out of continuity and Batman is being handled by other people out of continuity, they turn out being some of the best Batman stories. It's almost like these people know that I've got Batman here for one shot. I'm gonna write my Batman on there. Sometimes it's pretty good. But I grabbed this cover because Joker. I mean that goes back. I mean look at this. That harkens back to Sienkiewicz from Arkham Asylum. Yeah, I'm gushing about Golden Age and pulp heroes with Roy Thomas. Yeah, Luther Manning said his ears are ringing about Deathlock. Yeah, I might do a Luther Manning. I might do a just a whole little show and pull out some. If I don't end up making a mess, some post-apocalyptic comics there, and we'll try to bring out Deathlock. But going back to Roy Thomas and stuff, Roy Thomas has this. I suppose he collected Golden Age comics in the 50s and 60s and stuff. So he's got this legendary Golden Age comic collection where he loves those characters, which is when I read his editorials and things in All Star Squadron, and how he was able to take all these different companies that were around during the 40s that DC had bought out, and he was able to like merge all the quality heroes with the oh my God, the National Periodic DC heroes and things like that. Explain why there's 2, 3 Manhunters. He pulled in Midnight, who was like a ripoff of the Spirit, and made him his own thing. It was really cool stuff. Reading Kirby, ever read Tuck the Cave? Kirby used the new of a name of the Inhuman City. I saw Devil Dinosaur. I have to read that again. Yep. Something I kind of completed just to complete because in my Dungeons and Dragons days, of course, in the 80s, I was in the fantasy and I've always had a soft spot for it. TSR books that got licensed to DC in the late 80s and early 90s, the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Forgotten Realms, and stuff, that fantasy's always had a soft spot in my heart. Growing up on Conan, to me, which Conan, I hate to calling it fantasy because that stuff is so H.P. Lovecraft edgy and stuff. You know what I mean? The good stuff and violent and stuff like that. Fantasy, when you hear fantasy, you kind of hear a little bit more lightness to it. You know what I mean? It's not as heavy. And then something I wanted to check, but I love Michael Moorcock Elric. Ah, Cayman X retracted it. Paulo Costa, what's up, buddy? Good to see everybody. But I went ahead and finished this up. There was a 4-issue miniseries that Howard Chaykin and Mike Mignola and Al Williamson came on for Epic Comics, where they told the story of they took a bunch of the short stories of Fritz Leiber. I think it's him. Yeah, Fritz Leiber, Fafnir and the Grey Mouser. Now, uh, the only time I ever heard of, in my experience, of Fafnir and the Grey Mouser were the people who read the pulps in the 70s. My stepdad's friends, people who were 15, 16 years older than me and stuff like that. I was a kid. So I've always heard Fafnir and the Grey Mouser. And in Dungeons and Dragons, I think it was Deities and Demigods, they actually had mentioned them. So that was my only exposure, was through Dungeons and Dragons. So I read some of these and I totally get why they were cool. But they had one called The Howling Castle, which was my favorite. So this was 4 issues, I think. I had the other two. Actually, I had 3 of them. I double dipped on some of these, but it's Magnolia artwork. Howard Chaykin coming in, doing adaptations of those Fritz Leiber stories and stuff, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good. You know, I totally get why this really didn't take off. You're either a fan of the books or you're not, but really cool. And I like the Grey Mouser as a character. Scott Connor, awesome, great. Of course, Scott Connor would know about it. Yes. All right. So, and in 19, yeah, I fell out of the culture. Okay, let me see if I can get these. Here we go. I keep hearing about Fafnir, but I've never had any contact with it. It seems to me it was very popular once, but fell out of the cultural zeitgeist. That's the better way to put it. Paulo Costa. That's exactly. I remember I heard about it as a kid. People loved it, and it just sort of it had its fans, and yeah, that was it. All right. So I got two of these books here. This is cool, but I think it was in like 1985. I think I was like 12 or 13. We had one of my stepdad's friends who ended up being my friend. I've known him since he was 17. I think he was about 17 or 18, and I've known him since I was like about 5. He worked at one of the VH rental places. So we were always getting movie posters and stuff he would bring in. I had Hellraiser. I just had all kinds of these. Okay. Cayman X, reading Kirby. Ever read Tuck the Cave Kirby? Used the name of the Inhuman City Adelan. It's Kirby stuff. Oh, it's not going to do it. New Gods and the Eternals. He really liked the idea of ancient aliens. Yeah, there's for that too. He had the reason he went out to all that stuff. Yeah, Kirby was a fan. What I heard about his room that he drew in, his little office studio, whatever, in his house, is that it had bookshelves of old sci-fi magazines and novels and stuff. And the idea of the gods that we knew about being aliens was kind of big there in the late 60s and 70s and stuff like that. So he was sort of part of that zeitgeist and stuff. But the fact that he could do New Gods and Eternals and still have them be their two separate things amazes me. You know, it didn't feel like he was recycling his ideas. He wasn't going to the well too often and stuff. But I'm a Kirby fan, so I'm biased and stuff. But anyway, going back to the '80s and stuff. But one day we'd have these movie posters and stand-ups and the stand-ups of the actors from these movies and stuff that the VHS rental place would get. We would take them out and fill them up full of BBs and stuff. That we'd have movie posters everywhere. I had Hellraiser. I wished still had a bunch of those, right? But then one day there's this one called Warriors of the Wind came in. So we went and rented Warriors of the Wind, and I still have the VHS tape of it. My stepdad was big on taking two VHS tapes. Hey, Ken, what's up? Did you see where Goon is starting back this week? Yes, and believe it or not, I'm not getting it. Um, yeah, everybody they love the Goon. I still love the Goon. I still tell everybody to go out and get the Goon. But I don't know. That's a whole other reason thing about not getting into it right now about the Goon. But yeah, go out and get the Goon. Get back issues of Goon. Goon is fantastic. I mean, that's one of the books I'll recommend to anybody to go get. I love the Goon. But anyway, so he came with Warriors of the Wind, and of course it was Studio Ghibli before we knew what Studio Ghibli was, and it was a terrible cut. I can't stand these stuff. Hey, and so I sat there but I still kind of dug it, but I had a problem with we called it Japanimation back then before we knew what it was really called and stuff, right? But Warriors of the Wind came nice piece. Came in and there were still things that were cool in it. You know, I couldn't stand the big mouths that were just going in when they did the dubbing in English, it didn't match up. Things like that would just wear me out. But the animation of the swamp and the giant creatures in it was just the giant insect things were just amazing. You know, actually. I would turn down the TV and play some music over it and just kind of watch it and turn it into like a gigantic hour and a half MTV video, you know, music video and stuff. Played heavy metal over it. It was very cool, right? So years later, we get a more faithful, cut of the movie over here where they didn't cut it up. Disney brought it over. John Lasseter brought it over. He started bringing up some real Studio Ghibli stuff, and I fell in love with Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. It's one of my favorite movies. It's have it on DVD. I think I have another VHS cut of it and stuff like that. And finally got some of it. Apparently, it was based on a manga over there. And I'm always picking these up. I think there's only like about 8 of these in America. Yeah, Nausicaa is just fantastic. Nausicaa is one of the ones where I'm like, there's any Studio Ghibli film. I know everybody goes to Spirited Away, which is, I have it too. It's right here. I can get my Studio Ghibli stuff over here. Spirited Away is fantastic, you know, but I always go back to Nausicaa. I don't think it's a nostalgia thing. I really think Nausicaa blows Spirited Away out of the water, you know. That's just an unpopular opinion of mine, right? It always blows my mind when I find this. I feel like one day this character is going to blow up. It's finally something's going to happen with him. Maybe it's wishful thinking, you know. But it's Madman here, and I've got is this Kitchen Sink? No, Tundra Publishing. But it always blows my mind when I find one of these 3 issues, which is the debut of Madman. But here's number 3 of the Tundra Publishing miniseries and stuff, right? What's really cool about this is that he played around with it, but you can get down here in the corners of the comic book and flip it, and he's got the Madman, you know, go-go dancing, and it's like animation where you can flip it. Very cool. Yeah, Madman. I love Madman. I got a huge Madman collection and stuff. I'm always surprised when I find stuff like this out in the wild. So really good stuff. What kind of cinched it up for me with Madman though is even though it's the story of Frank Einstein, he pretty much died and came back to life and he has no memory of who he is and he took the name Frankenstein and it split it in half and became Frank Einstein. But the thing about it is that actually the first Madman that I ever read was in a trade of that in the 90s. And he's sitting in a field and he's looking up the stars and he's talking to God. And that really was sort of deep for me at that time. Nice, Scott Connor. Yeah, I got those too. So I think it is the Tundra series, if I'm going by memory here, where there's just in the middle of all this, quirky stuff going on and, zippy stuff and, fun. You have a moment where the character shows some depth and he's talking to God in a field. I thought that was just amazing at the time in my early 20s. All right, we'll show these off. I'm going to call it off. I'll save these other books. It's mostly like Legion and DC and stuff like that. But I can pull stuff off right here behind me. All right. Huge Douglas Adams fan, probably seriously, since I was probably about 12. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is, it may very well be my favorite book of all time. I can quote little pages out of it and stuff like that. I probably read it about 20 times in 30 years, 33 years, 34 years. I'm getting old, man. But here's the TV show that BBC did in the early 80s, and it looks like it's by the same people that used the bubble wrap on Doctor Who. It just goes into the restaurant at the end of the universe. I also had the movie. I've got the big thick book and stuff like that. Nexus Meets Madman was my very first contact with both Nexus and Madman. This is Paulo. Fun story, but inconsequential to the characters and stuff. I thought it was just fun. I like the idea of those two characters meeting. Like, how did this happen? Like, those two characters should never have met, and it worked in that little story. It was just fun. I had that also. I had that in here. Another one to pick out that I thought was fantastic, and it actually, Mike Allred kept it in continuity for Madman, even though it's not for Superman. And Mike Allred always also used the Silver Age version of Superman, if I remember right. But Superman Madman Hullabaloo, I think it's a 3-issue miniseries, which I thought was fantastic. It was great, you know. Uh, so going back to the Douglas Adams stuff here and being all over the place and stuff like that. But I've had a couple of issues of this, one or two beat up issues of this, and to find these for a buck, man. But I found the comic book adaptations of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, all 3 issues. Steve Laialola did the art in them, and I'm not a fan of his work, but the storytelling's good. But this is more faithful than the movie that came out a couple years ago, which I have, you know. Yeah, thanks. We have our characters with 2 heads and things like that. But I was able to get all 3 issues of these like in brand new conditions. These have never been cracked open. Now I don't. When it comes to stuff like this, I realize that these aren't key books and these aren't you know, big money books or anything like that. But things like that, they pull in people from outside the hobby, and they want to be completist. You know, they're Douglas Adams fans, they're Hitchhiker of the Galaxy fans, and they'll buy them up when they know they're there, and you just can't find them. They're not worth a lot of money, but people who went out and bought them aren't into comics, so you know they don't advertise that they have them. Cool. The last thing I saw happen, Steve Rude tend to draw the Fleischer Superman. Yeah, Steve Rude always goes back to character. Steve Rude has a very retro feel to his characters that I love. I love his Batman, you know, and that Fleischer Superman is my favorite Superman. But the last time I saw something where you know some of this stuff gets pulled in from other places and they get collected and you won't be able to find them was like the movie adaptations of Legends, Labyrinth, right? That was David Bowie fans wanting that book, you know, things like that. I have another book here somewhere that'll crack you up and stuff, right? Um, just to throw that out there before I continue here, but yeah, I picked up the Star Bright, yeah, yeah, Rainbow Bright and the Star Stiller, you know, adaptation of a movie and stuff like that, right? Just thought it was kind of cool to have that. I mean, this is very 80s, you know. But anyway, but I also got the Restaurant at the End of the Universe adaptation, right? And just really cool stuff, man. You know, but like I said, we have more faithful interpretations of the characters, which is why I think this is really cool. You know, so just good stuff. But it's fun to have those. And my favorite part is the whale that is self-aware, following with the fern. You know, just, you just it was just it blew me away. I'm like, Douglas Adams is a genius. All right, and the last book I picked up, I pre-ordered these, but for some reason I didn't really want to commit to another series. Thus with the Goon, if you will, you know, coming out, stuff like that. But I went ahead and gave it a try. Wow, I remember seeing that Starbright movie in the theater. I'd have to pick that adaptation up to Kid Ragnarok. Yeah, I hadn't even cracked it open, man, but it was there for a buck. It's been there. That Starbright adaptation has been at this comic book shop the last 3 times I've been, and the last 3 times I've been have been spread over probably close to 2 years. And I'm like, it's still here. Might as well go ahead and get it. But I didn't want to really start a new series, but it's Grant Morrison, man. Grant Morrison got away from mainstream comics for a while because he became editor in chief at Heavy Metal. And I did not check out what he was doing at Heavy Metal because even though I don't go on big rants or anything like that, or hate or tell people not to do anything and stuff like that, but they took a story of Jesus and they had made him into like a Conan adventure character, and I just stay away from stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. So when he comes back here and he gets on Green Lantern, okay, this is Grant Morrison doing some sci-fi stuff. What's he gonna do with Green Lantern? Because I don't think Green Lantern has ever gotten back on his feet since Jeff Johns left this, left that part of the DC universe, if you will, after building it up for so many years and doing this Blackest Night. Can you imagine Starbright drawn by Steranko? I'd be down with that. I really would. I think that'd be fantastic. I like to see Steranko do this big piece where he just takes a bunch of '80s characters like Starbright, who were, the toys commercials, if you will, for kids, and just do this great big huge piece. That would be awesome. Uh, I, oh, okay. It's the more I think about it, the more I'm like picturing what he'll sneak in there. But anyway, so Grant Morrison comes back. I have these pre-ordered. Now I can read them online. I think I read the first issue online, and I could tell Ryder Morrison had spent that time, hanging out at Heavy Metal and stuff. He actually brought some of that heavy metal into the first issue of Green Lantern that I read. So when I was ordering these, I didn't get number four for some reason. It didn't pick up. So I made sure I grabbed a number four. So when my Gmart order comes in, I think I'm gonna have issues 1 through 5 or something. I can sit down and read what Grant Morrison has done. But I kind of like the idea of how Jordan getting a heavy metal feel, the heavy metal sci-fi feel to it. There's some trippy stuff in there. So hopefully we can survive, some Green Lantern finally getting off on his feet after Jeff Johns has left. I mean, Jeff Johns has been off that series for a long time now. All right, guys, that's it for now. I've got a whole other stack of books over here. I'm getting some ideas for other live streams, and I'm going to have to play around so that when I do this again, I'll probably show these books off in a regular video, probably a 10-minute video or something, where this is mirrored. So, yeah, where this is mirrored, I don't want to go on. But I do have some cool stuff to show off before I get out of here, man. But look at Pollen Files on Twitter and other places and stuff like that. He's got 3 fanzines of Swamp Thing, and I talked about it last week in my comeback video or whatever. Highly recommend getting this. Really good stuff. But that's Holland Files. I'll talk more about it in another video and stuff. I may do another one tomorrow. Stranko's Nick Fury is great. Yep, yep. Stranko, to me, his biggest accomplishment is it's one thing to be a legend in the series and to come up with. I mean, he's in the double digits of new ways of telling a story in a comic book, if you will. New techniques, art techniques, and stuff like that. But it's when you really look at the small amount of material he's put out over the years. That's what blows my mind. So much, it's impactful. All right, guys. That's it. Thanks for hanging out. Good to see everybody. And like I said, I think I want to shoot some videos where I just straight up show some of these books and talk about them a little bit more and stuff. And I don't know if I have time, maybe tomorrow night or something, I might do another live show or something. All right, guys. Later. Thanks for hanging out.